Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Another important chapter from the course of the human resource development is reflective practice from the book of human resource development, John P. Wilson. Uh, the basic learning objectives of this chapter is linked with the start of the reflection. Reflection is the means that evocative of number of images like mirrors, and the scenes is like the, you can say that, tranquil in the water, thinking about times past, and forms of mediation come immediately to the mind. And meditation come immediately in the mind. The context of the education and training, though the term is often used especially to signify an important stage in the learning cycle, uh, where a complex and deliberate process of thinking about and interpreting an experience is undertaken in order to arrive at a new understanding of events and our part in them. The important thing is to note about reflection in this context is that it is a conscious act, deliberately engaged in with the intention of finding out more about our own learning processes and how they affect our professional practice and working relationships. In this regard, we can discuss the important things and the important points related with the reflective practitioners are the reflective practice. Moving further is on the slide is, what is reflection? Reflection is basically based. First, we go to the definition of the reflection. Reflection is an active process of witnessing one's own experience in order to examine it more closely, give meaning to it, and learn from it. Reflection involves three basic elements, that is, returning to the experience, attending to feelings, evaluating experiences. Whenever we are practice, whenever we are doing the you can say that in the learning stage, and when you're talking about the reflection, so this is the returning back to the your experience, what you are getting in the organization, or what kind of the experiences, either in the current organization or in the past organization, you return back to the experience, then attending to the feelings, and then evaluating experience. Reflection can be of two main types, that is like reflection on action, reflection in action, thinking on our feet. That is, reflection on action means that you are whatever the act is performed, so you can reflect it. And reflection in action means that is you are currently in the action process, you are currently working in the action process. Then the reflective, if you underpinning the reflective practitioner of the Donald section is basically underpinning the familiar piece of dualist, either on thinking, in which the hard and theoretical knowledge traditionally associated with the universities and as well as with the professionals claim that their art could be neither adequately described nor subjective to analysis. So these are all the things that is linked with the reflection, that we had experienced but missed the meaning. Reflection is about getting the meaning from the everyday experiences. So these are some of the aspects which is linked with the, then benefits of taking time for reflection is enables individuals to think more deeply and holistically about an issue, leading to greater insights and learning, connects the rational decision making process to a more effective and experiential learning process, challenges individuals to be honest about the relationship between what they say and what they do, creates opportunities to seriously consider the implications of any past or future action, acts as a safeguard against making impulsive. Then the process of reflection is what, so what, now what happened, descriptions, facts, what did the experience mean, interpretations, the feelings involved, what was learned, what are the next steps, seeing the bigger picture, applying the lessons learned, planning future actions. These are all the process of the reflections. On reflective practice, the reflected practice is the application of the skill of reflections to other or to our practice in order to improve the performance. So this is the basic skill of the reflections to the practice in order to improve the performance. And it involves creating a habit, structured or routine around reflecting, reflection on experiences. Then data, information, knowledge, and the wisdom related with the reflection or the reflective practice is the link with. When we are talking about the reflective models, before going to this, I would elaborate the some of the important aspects in that is the linked with the loops. This is the one of the important thing that we can understand about from this chapter, or from this is the basic crux of this chapter. You can say that this is the three learning loops, that the models, some of the books referred as model and loops, some of the talking about this three learning loops and these things, the behavioral patterns, you can say that, and the behavioral aspects, you can say that. uh, if I can elaborate it into the working on an extensive model. So the thing is that you can identify is the patterns of behavior based on the kinds of goals people strive. Number one thing is that, and to achieve in their social interactions, especially at work. For the most part, they argued these goals are governing variable seems to be built on unquestioned assumptions. This is number one thing, is that the assumptions is the unquestioned assumptions about the social world and experience expectations about the behavior of others. What they called it, the behavior is governed by the following, are the following assumptions, are the imperatives. Number one thing is that we should define and achieve goals. When you're talking about learning, when you're talking about the models that is associated with the loops, that is associated with the learning loop, sorry. And that's the first thing is that you define and achieve goals. People exhibiting this behavior rarely to develop a mutual definition of purpose with others, especially subordinates or clients, and they do not seems open to others perceptions of the task in hand. The second thing is maximize winning, minimize losing. And then we have to talk about the maximization of the winning and minimization of the losing. Minimize generating or expressing negative feelings because it is usually felt this demonstrates incompetence. Permitting or helping others to express feelings is regarded as poor strategy. Be rational, that is objective, intellectual, and unemotional. The other point is related with the point out that such behavior almost inevitable results in competence, in competitiveness, withholding help from others, conformity, covert behaviors, and mistrust, while de-emphasizing cooperation, helping others individually, and the trust. Nevertheless, most people tend to remain unaware of how such a climate is generated, and especially of their own contribution to it. It becomes self-sealing. So if you seeing it, if you looking into the first part of this here is the single loop learning is, are we doing things right? Number one question. Then the second thing is double loop learning is, are we doing the right things? Number one question is that, are we doing things right? Whatever we are doing, it is in the right track. The second thing is double loop learning is, are we doing the right things? Are we are in the right track, or we are in the wrong track? First, the thing is that we are in the track. Are we are in the track? The second thing is that if we are in on the track, is that track is towards or leads to the achieve goals, or we can say that define and achieve goals. The third important thing is that the triple loop learning is that, how do we decide what is right? Now, how do we decide what is right is totally linked with the outcomes. Whenever we're talking about goals, whenever you are defining about the goals, it means that you are talking about outcomes. It means that you are talking about some of the deliverables. So there is a difference between that, that are we doing the right things, and the third thing is that how do we decide what is right. This is also very important. This means that organization has such kind of a mechanism where they draw a proper line through which they can identify the productivity of the organization. So these are the points. Then uh, the single loop is adaptive learning. Then we can say that generative learning. Double loop is about generative learning, and triple loop is about radical learning. Adaptive learning is applying existing rules, procedures, coping, dealing with the symptoms of problems. Already existing rules and regulations, we are adapt the things and we work with the things. And then efficiency is improved application of rules and procedures if we can properly follow the existing principles, and this can increase your efficiency. Then generative learning is examining the underlying causes, questioning assumptions and rules and procedures, new knowledge and insights, revised rules and procedures, symptoms and strategies. So if you link it, this here is this, that are we doing the right things. So if you answer this question, so this, for this you need to examine the underlying causes, questioning assumptions, rules and procedures. Then the third part is the radical learning, examining core values and identity, rethinking purpose and principles, renewed statement of core values, purpose, renewed identity. Again, seeing it that how do we decide what is right? So for this, how do we decide what is right is, for this you need to define a goals, you need to define about a proper objectives of the current practices, and then you can maximize the informations, then you can find out the maximum um, informed choice available. You can say that the maximum internal commitment to decision made. So these are all linked with the aspects. Then when you're talking about learning loops, so for learning loops you can plan the things. You can, number one thing is a plan, the second thing is do, and the third thing is to evaluate, and the fourth thing is that learn about the things. So the meaning is that, am I doing things right? So the thing is that you need to first plan the things, then do the things, then evaluate the things, then evaluate the whole learning process, you can say that, and then learn about the things that you are working in. Then if you are talking about a double loop learning, and this basically I explained that plan, do, evaluate and learn, this is a single loop. The double loop is that when you are talking about plan, do, evaluate, learn, and then the thing that comes in the double loop learning is that test and validate assumptions of the current practice. Now this is the thing. Now this is the major important thing. There's examining underlying causes, questioning assumptions and rules procedures. This is the important core issue, which can differentiate from a single loop to a double loop. Now this is the main triggering part where you can differentiate between single loop and double loop. This is the only part. In the first part, you only plan, do, evaluate and learn the process. In the next stage, you do the same things as in the single loop, but in here you are going for the more thing is that you are going for test and validate assumptions of the current practices. Now the triple loop is, by the triple loop you can change the whole new system. You are talking about examining the core values and identifying and rethinking the purpose and the values. So this can this can change the things whole process. Then moving further, in the reflection in action, reflection in action is related with the tacit knowledge. The tacit knowledge is linked with the that you can talk about that what kind of the concept of reflection in actions drives from the idea that exhibiting skillful actions. People often appear to be drawing on information that they are subsequently unable to put into words. It owes much to work on tacit knowing, an example of which is how people recognize faces. To just to try to explain how you recognize a face that you know. The another thing is that reflection in action or reflection on action, which with the clear intention of internalization certain actions for future use. Content reflection on the content, a description of the problem. Process is related analyzing the methods or strategies that are being used to solve the problem. Premise is that considering why the problem is a problem in the first place. So this is the things that you can. Reflective practitioners is someone who takes the time to step back and make sense of what has done and why. This is a major thing, that why this problem occurs, why these things happened in the organization. Tries to understand the often implicit theories of change that guide actions. It is not afraid to challenge assumptions, both their own and those of the others as well. Then reflective practitioners, the characteristics of the reflective practitioners are intellectually curious about their work, actively reflect on their experience, develop experience based theories of change, test these theories in practice, uh, use their understanding and initiative to contribute to knowledge development, understand their strength and limitations and work on these, use a range of tools, methods, and approaches for individual and collaborative learning. So, these are some of the characteristics related with the reflective practitioners. Then, moving further, reflective practitioners' competency is self knowledge, understanding of and insight into one's self-worth, motives, characters, and capabilities. The second thing is inquisitiveness, the willingness to be curious and inquiring, that is by asking reflective questions. The critical thinking is the application of a logical principles, rigorous standards of evidence, and careful reasoning to the analysis and discussions of claims, beliefs, and issues. Emotional intelligence, the ability to identify, assess, and manage one's own emotions and those of others, individuals, and groups. So these are the some of the major part and some of the major issues linked with the competencies of the reflective practitioners competencies. Moving further, moving further to the other aspects of the open and hidden and blind and unknown, that what kind of the known things is to others and what are the not known to the others is known to yourself and not known to yourself, is that you can go to the disclosure, then you can go to the insight of the vision, insight of the aspects, and then the feedback required. The what is the critical thinking is Critical thinking is purposeful, reflective judgment concerning what to believe or what to do. Critical thinking raises important questions and problems, formulating them clearly and precisely, gathers and assesses uh, relevant informations, uh, relevant informations using abstract ideas to interpret it effectively, comes to well reasoned conclusions and solutions, testing them against the relevant criteria and standards, thinks open mindedly within the alternative systems of thought, recognizing the assessing as need to be their assumptions, implications, and practical consequences. So, the based on the assumptions, based on the implications and practical consequences, communicates effectively with others in figuring out solutions to complex problems without being unduly influenced by others. So the critical thinkers is basically linked with all the ideas, with all, and draw the abstract and then interpret it effectively with your current practices, and linked with the solutions, linked with the conclusions of the whole process, and then can develop a proper standards. So characteristics of the critical thinkers is understand larger patterns, dynamics, and interrelationships, use a system approach, examine issues from different perspectives, see beyond established ways of thinking, challenge assumptions, attribute meaning to informations, identify the root causes of the issues, are aware of cultural and contextual issues, value intuitions, emotions, and empathy. Is these are all the basic characteristics of a critical thinkers. So if you have any questions related with the things, so you can ask from me, so we can discuss it in further. To I am not explaining more in detail, because of the fact is that I I my basic intention is to listens your questions, your queries, so I can answer your queries, and can reply to your queries in a very appropriate manner. Then the other aspects is that if we can stop this first part here, and then we can discuss the other part of the chapter in the next slides, in the next part of the video. So if you have any questions so far, you can ask from me, so we can discuss it later. So thank you very much.